How's it going, everybody? I'm the BTC Reaper, and my goal on this channel is to teach you how to reap the rewards of trading when the price is going up or down. So over on the Dixie for the daily, we did get most of our breakdown if you were watching for this move down. I did try to push the crypto market up, but we did end up retracing a bit. So we did end up pushing forward. If we do not break this support level, it would be hard for crypto to break their resistance levels. So we'll have to look at the TA on that, but this pattern is pretty much played out with that move downward, so we will delete this channel now. There is still a chance we can come down, but I would just watch because that is a long lower shadow candle possibly forming here, and that long lower shadow candle could show that the bears did try to break us down, so we have a little indecision. If this does get followed by a green candle, we can push forward. That would pull the crypto back. However, if we follow this with a strong red candle tomorrow, we will see a continued pullback, and that pullback could drop us below that support level. Our stochastic is starting to push away. We do have our orange above blue, so that is the bearish cross. I would watch. That could bring us lower. Our RSI is starting to weaken. Momentum is rounding away with a red dot as that VWAP is breaking into the bearish territory. If that VWAP continues to break down here, we will see that momentum continue to round away, and then our money flow would start to break down as well. That would show that we have a sell-off incoming. So that would be the ideal scenario here. If we draw, we might have a rising channel. Remember, a rising channel, while it sounds good, does end up breaking you down. So we have 3 touches to the top, 2 touches to the bottom. On the 3rd touch to the bottom, that would be where you would expect to break down. And if we do see that breakdown, that would possibly push us toward this other gap area. Then we could reject it, break down, and push down below that 104. That's below that 300 EMA, so we have our EMAs back. They are slightly different, so we will be making a video soon on what they are. But if you want to look at the styles, this is their styles. These are their new inputs, so slightly different than we're working with previously. Let's see how these look. Our VWAP does want to round away. Momentum is starting to curl back. Money flow does want to pull back, so if that VWAP does break down, momentum will round away, VWAP will break down, and we would see a break of our support level. However, if our VWAP does remain bullish here by staying above that 0, we will see momentum start to push forward, and that would give our money flow some strength. Watch the lower time frames. If they start favoring bullish, that would push the Dixie up. Again, that would not be good for crypto. Over on the 2-hour, stochastic is starting to round. We have our orange above blue. RSI is pulling back. That VWAP does want to break down, and the momentum is rounding. So if that VWAP continues to break down here, we could see the bears gain some control, bring momentum lower, and cause that money flow to break down as well. Over on the 1-hour, we did have a bit of a gap as we broke down. So we did try to push. We did try to fill that pattern. But in doing so, we created that gap. That gap did create this bullish possibility to help push us forward. So this is going to be a very critical area. If we hold this gapped range, we could continue to jump up. However, if we lose this gapped range, it's very likely this rising channel would break us down. Stochastic is heading down with that orange above blue. RSI is pulling back. Momentum does want to round away. VWAP is breaking bearish, pulling money flow lower. So overall, the 1-hour does look more bearish, and it does look like we could continue to drop away. Over on our total, we did try to run up toward that golden pocket like we said to watch for, but we got rejected, just like Dixie got rejected from breaking down. So we may have created a gap here as well. Our stochastic does want to push up. RSI is pushing forward. VWAP is bullish. Momentum's gaining strength, and the money flow is indecisive at best. So I would watch that VWAP close. Over on the 4-hour, we did get a reversal arrow after we tried to break that golden pocket. That could have been your hint that we could start to break away. We did make a rounding top, and now we're kind of stair-stepping our way down. I would watch. This could create a descending triangle. A descending triangle would bring us back into this previous range and possibly give us a lower breakdown, as at this point, you could bring the top trend line a little bit higher up, and that would get these candle bodies and wicks as well as these candle bodies. So our range may be just a bit wider. Stochastic does want to drop. our RSI is weakening, momentum is rounding away with the red dot as that VWAP does want to break bearish, causing money flow to sell off. So I would watch that VWAP. If it does pull lower into the bearish territory here, our momentum will continue to round away and money flow will continue to sell off. That would weaken the daily and weaken our altcoins. Remember, this is the market cap of all the altcoins besides Ethereum. So over on the 2 hour, we do have a kind of slanted double top here. This could end up breaking us down, so I would exercise caution. There's your rise, your drop, your rise, and your drop. And then you would go right around that neckline. So that would be around where we would break. You would go from line to line, if I can get this trend line to work. So you go from here to here. Guess we'll use a horizontal line for today, and then top to bottom. And then apply that to your horizontal line or your trend line. And that could give us that push to the bottom of that flag. I would exercise caution because if we do see this flag break down, that could be a push right around 485. So that could be quite a bit of a sell-off for our altcoins there. So our RSI is starting to weaken. Stochastic is starting to round. We do have that orange above blue. Momentum is rounding with the red dot as that VWAP is breaking down and the money flow is pushing lower. So overall, the 2 hours not very positive looking. We are above that 300 EMA. So if we can make a bounce here and push forward, that would be positive. However, if we lose the 300 EMA, that black line, remember, that does give the bears more strength, and that does increase the likelihood of that breakdown. RSI does want to pull back. Stochastic is dropping away. The momentum is rounding with the red dot as that VWAP did break bearish. As that VWAP continues to drop away, our money flow will continue to sell off. So over on Bitcoin dominance, we are seeing a little bit of a jump up here as Bitcoin did fare a little bit better than our altcoin. Don't know where Bitcoin went. I accidentally deleted it. If I could speak when I was doing the Discord, somehow I deleted it off my list and it wound up at the bottom. So there we go. So Bitcoin did increase a little bit and our altcoins did sell off. That's why dominance increased. Stochastic does want to push up. VWAP's gaining strength. Momentum is pushing forward. Money flows remaining bullish. Stochastic is running up and the RSI is pushing forward. So overall, we do look positive here. But remember, this doesn't really mean too much unless it's coming down. And that means altcoins could start to run up ahead of Bitcoin. I would watch for a lower high with a lower low. That could start to put dominance in a down channel. Again, that would be positive because then maybe we'll actually see an altcoin season. Over on Bitcoin futures for the daily, we do have that gap to the downside. We are starting to push forward, so I would exercise caution. We didn't fill the gap yesterday. We did try to fill the gap today, this higher gap. So that's the kind of lesser of the two scenarios we wanted to see. We did hit this gap, and now we could continue lower. If we don't hold at the lower gap, right around this 59.5, 60K range, then we could end up breaking down, pushing lower and seeing that double top play out that could bring us to 30K. Ideally, we would hold at that lower gap and then push up to this higher gap again as we don't have a solid fill on the daily. Our stochastic does want to push up. RSI is gaining strength. VWAP's pushing forward with higher highs and higher lows. Momentum is gaining strength and money flow does look like it could start to push up, but that VWAP needs to stay in the bullish territory. Over on the 4 hour, we did make a bit of a gap as we are starting to pull back. This could be a double top here as well. So we do have a gap to the downside. We have a few gaps everywhere. So this could be a pretty big double top. A big double top would push us lower, so I would exercise caution. Your neckline could be somewhere around right here. And then you could draw from your head to your neckline. And then that would give you your breakdown. You apply that from your neckline down. That would take us for a retest of the bottom of our flag channel. So I would exercise caution because if we break the bottom of that channel, that's where we're going to see that play out and that breakdown. Stochastic does want to round away. RSI is pulling back. Momentum is rounding with the red dot as that VWAP is starting to break down. If that VWAP breaks through the neutral and gets consistent lows with lower highs, momentum will start to break down and money flow will remain bearish. However, if that VWAP can get a higher high, higher low, and then get higher highs after, we could try to keep the momentum bullish and money flow could continue to run. Watch the lower time frames here very close. Again, the ideal scenario is we break down, fill our lower gaps, and then push up to fill this higher gap. So we really didn't fill it on the 2 hour either. This does look positive for the chance to fill it later, but it also shows how your gaps can act as a support resistance area, as well as an area that you could snap back to. Our stochastic does want to round with the orange above blue. RSI is pulling back. Momentum is rounding with the red dot. VWAP has lower highs and it's breaking, so watch for lower lows. If we get lower lows here, that VWAP could create a bearish trend, which will bring momentum lower and cause that money flow to start to sell off. Over on the 1 hour, we did attempt to break our 300 EMA several times and we got rejected, so this does show that the bears do have more strength over us. We wanted to break that and hold if we were going to see that continued bullish momentum. RSI is pulling back, stochastic is dropping, momentum is rounding, VWAP is breaking bearish, causing money flow to sell off. So overall, the 1 hour doesn't look too positive. Again, the ideal scenario would be us break down, fill our gap, and possibly make a bounce off this neckline. We don't always have to fill this lower gap here. They do have an 80% likelihood to fill though, as you can see by this run up and previous drops to fill other gaps and jumps to fill other gaps as well. So over on Bitcoin for the daily, probably going to be very similar to Bitcoin futures. Spoiler alert, remember Bitcoin futures does lead Bitcoin price. So we did try to break our resistance we said to watch for, but we stopped out at our EMA bands. Stochastic does want to run up, RSI is pushing forward, VWAP's pushing up, and momentum is gaining strength. If that VWAP can remain bullish, momentum could break forward, and money flow could continue that trend reversal. You did see that little break into the green. Over on the 4 hour, we did try to run up and break this orange EMA several times. We did struggle and we are pulling back, breaking our support levels, so I would exercise caution. If we continue to break EMAs to the downside, we could continue to trend down and push down to our 59-58K range. Stochastic is pulling back, momentum is rounding, RSI is breaking down, leading price lower. VWAP is holding into that bearish territory, so I would watch. We do have consistent lows with lower highs. This could create a bearish trend to bring momentum lower and cause that money flow to continue to sell off. Over on the 2 hour, this could be that double top like you have on futures. That double top could end up breaking us down toward the support range right around that 60K level, similar to futures. RSI does want to pull back, momentum has bearish divergence, stochastic's breaking down, VWAP has lower highs with consistent lows, so we have a bearish trend there. That bearish trend, if it continues, could start to bring momentum lower and cause that money flow to sell off, which would cause those higher time frames to break down. Over on the 1 hour here, we are trying to make a bounce off the 300 EMA. We need to break this and hold if we're going to continue forward. So ideally, we would bounce, break our resistance, and then push forward if you're hoping for that instant run up. But again, if we do get that instant run up, we have the gaps on futures that could fill and bring us lower in the long term. Momentum is pulling back, RSI is dropping down, stochastic is breaking, VWAP does have a consistent low, so I would watch. We didn't really get much bullish favor, that is causing momentum to weaken and bring money flow lower. If this continues, the higher time frames are going to start to break down and we will start to push lower. Again, as long as we hold that 58-57K range, that would be the more ideal scenario. Over on graph for the daily, we are kind of within our channel. We do have a long upper shadow candle and it's a red hammer candle as well. This does show that we could have some strong selling pressure incoming. Stochastic does want to round away. I would watch, but the orange is trying to push forward. RSI is starting to pull back. VWAP does want to break that neutral, but we're starting to round away, so I would watch. Momentum is in the bearish territory, trying to push forward with that VWAP. But if that VWAP rejects for a lower high, then gets lower lows, we will see momentum continue lower and money flow will continue to break down. Over on the 4 hour here, we do have that zigzag action, so that is our symmetrical triangle. Stochastic is dropping down, RSI is rounding away, that momentum is rounding with the red dot as that VWAP does want to break that neutral, so I would watch. If that VWAP continues lower, we will see momentum round away and money flow would remain in the bearish territory. That would give us a higher probability to see that break toward that 16,316. Over on the 2 hour here, we do have kind of a slanted double top you can make there too, so exercise caution. RSI is pulling back, stochastic does want to round. Momentum is pushing down with the red dot as that VWAP has lower highs with lower lows, creating that bearish trend to bring that momentum lower, which will continue to suppress that money flow, showing that people are selling more than they're buying, which will cause that push down to that 16,316 support. Over on the 1 hour, you can see we rejected our 300 EMA, that black line, critical area that we rejected. We wanted to break above and hold if we were going to get that continued bullish momentum. So I would watch that maybe all the run up we got. Remember, don't get greedy. That was about half of the expected move forward. Stochastic does want to pull back. RSI is dropping down. Our VWAP has lower highs with lower lows. Momentum is dropping and money flow is pulling back as a result. So overall, we do look pretty bearish here and we could continue to break down. But if we do break down just like futures, we do have a gap above us that we could end up filling at a later date. So it may not be the end of the world. Over on Ankr for the daily, we do have a pretty similar pattern, but we've kind of traded sideways from what we've drawn. If you want, you could try to move these lines, kind of straighten them out a little bit. If I can move the right lines, and then that would keep you within that triangle. But I would just exercise caution. This isn't really too strong right now. Not as strong as the one on graph as well. Stochastic does want to round. RSI is pulling back. That VWAP is trying to make that bounce off neutral. So we do technically have a decent low. And we are trying to push forward. If that yellow wave can get a stronger high, momentum could push forward. And money flow could start to reverse over time. I would watch if the lower time frames can remain more bullish. Over on the 2 hour, you can see we got about half of our move up, about a third of our move up here, so that was positive. If you were in that wick, you may have gotten a little bit more, but usually those people are setting lanes ahead like you should be. Stochastic is dropping down. RSI is starting to round as a result, bringing price action lower. VWAP does have lower lows, and we are rounding for a lower high, so we are favoring bearish, bringing that momentum into the bearish territory and causing that money flow to deepen into the red. So overall, we don't look too positive on the 2 hour, and we do have those higher odds of breaking to the downside here. We do have a little bit of a gap to the upside on the 1 hour though, so I would watch if we do end up getting that breakdown. We could fill this gap to the downside, then make a bounce and push forward right around that 28.83. Our side does want to pull back. Stochastic is dropping down. The VWAP does have a lower high, and we are breaking for consistent lows, so I would watch if this VWAP remains in the bearish territory. Momentum will continue lower, and that money flow will start to push down again. That would weaken those higher time frames. Over on I can't get the word out today. Over on XRP for the daily, we are trying to be counter to the rest of the market. We are trying to push forward. We got about a third of our break forward, so I would exercise caution. We hit that resistance area, and we are starting to pull back. Stochastic is starting to run up. RSI is pushing forward. VWAP does want to push up, and momentum is gaining strength, potentially pushing that money flow up. So if that VWAP can remain bullish, momentum will continue further, and money flow could gain some strength, but watch those lower time frames. Over on the 4 hour, we did get that break up, and we are coming back for the retest. Remember, this is the important move. This is where you want to watch on this kind of pattern. If we pull back, hit that retest, and we bounce forward, we could continue toward that 300 EMA and try to break it. However, if we get rejected at that retest and we pull back into that channel, and we could end up seeing those bearish scenarios we talked about, like the 45 and 35. Stochastic is pulling back, momentum is rounding, RSI is pulling back, and VWAP is breaking bearish, so watch that VWAP. If it continues lower, momentum will continue down, and money flow will break out. Over on the 2 hour, we did push up to our 250 EMA, so that was a very strong support resistance area. RSI is pulling back, stochastic is dropping, momentum is weakening as that VWAP remains bearish. If that VWAP continues to remain bearish, momentum will break down and money flow will start to round away. That would weaken those higher time frames. Over on the 1 hour, we did break our 300 EMA and we failed to hold. If we cannot bounce off these lower EMAs and then retest and break above that 300 EMA, it's likely we are going to continue lower and we will see a breakdown. That VWAP does have a lower low, and we are starting to curl away from the neutral, coming back down, favoring bearish. This will bring momentum lower and make that money flow continue lower, resulting in more sell-off. So I would exercise caution. If that VWAP doesn't have any signs of reversing and we come back to our channel, we could end up breaking down, as that would be below all of the EMA levels. So over on ALGO for the daily, we are trying to be a counter. So this is one of the only coins on our list that actually got a decent move forward. Stochastic does want to push up, RSI is pushing up, VWAP is running up, momentum's gaining strength, and money flow does want to push up. This could be a late reaction to the ALGO decipher we had last week. A lot of decent things were mentioned for those of you in ALGO. Stochastic does want to pull back on the 4-hour, RSI is pulling down, momentum is rounding, VWAP does want to break neutral, getting a lower high. So watch, if that VWAP breaks down, momentum will break down and money flow would reject. That would result in us pulling back into our channel and seeing a pretty brutal drop, potentially breaking that 1350. Over on the 2-hour, we could be making a double top here. So a double top using our path tool. We have this rise, a drop, a rise, and then you would have a drop, and then you would get a breakdown. You would measure your neckline if I can use the right line. I am just not using the right line all day, so there we go. And you measure from your top to your bottom if it actually takes my input, and then you would apply that to your breakdown. That could potentially pull us below this rising channel, and remember that rising channel is a bearish pattern that could bring us toward that 12.5, 12.25 area. So I would exercise caution. Despite us getting this run up, we do have a similar pattern to the rest of the market. Momentum does want to round away, stochastic is pulling back, RSI is dropping down. The VWAP does have a lower high and it wants to pull back for consistent lows, so watch that VWAP close. If it continues to favor bearish here, momentum will pull back and that money flow will deepen in the red and start to break down. That will result in further sell-off and weaken those higher time frames. Finally, over on the 1 hour, we are getting that retest, so if we do not bounce and continue forward here, we probably would see that double top bring us lower. Stochastic is starting to drop down, RSI is weakening. As a result, our momentum has bearish divergence as that VWAP is breaking into the bearish territory, causing the money flow to pull back and get another trend reversal. As that money flow favors red, we will see continued sell-off, and if that sell-off remains on the lower time frames for several hours, that will lead to the higher time frames breaking down as well. Thank you for watching tonight's video. I hope you have a great night. We appreciate all of you.